Hey everyone, continue with our modulus graphs and we're looking at the trigonometry graphs, and I'll start with the simpler ones, sine x and cosine x. Alright, and basically what I'm going to do is I'm going to go through mod sine x first, so let's go through mod fx first. So we know that for this sine graph it's basically something like this. Alright, I mean I hope it's more symmetrical, but I can't do it right now. So this is our original sine x graph. Of course, if we want the modulus sine x, it will just simply be the reflection of the negative region, and as such, instead of getting the things at the bottom, you'll get the things on top instead. So if I were to just edit this graph a little bit, it's basically the humps are on top, right? It's just like a camel hump, just that now it's, well, it's in the positive. And of course, if you want to take negative mod x, then it will be basically the other way around. It will be something like this. Alright, that the bottom will be the bottom will be minus mod fx, or minus mod sine x, and the top will be plus mod fx. Alright, so that is basically it for mod sine x. Mod cosine x is actually the same thing, just that now it's slightly different. Right, so it's sort of very similar to your quadratic graph, where now instead of having the part at the bottom, you now reflect this bottom part on top. Okay, so instead of this way, you'll be doing this way, and it looks like a very badly drawn W or badly written W, but that will be the mod cosine x. Of course, if let's say you have minus mod cosine x, then it would be something what we had, but something like this. Right, so something like this. Basically, it's now like two hills, all right, or a badly written M. Right, so that is mod cosine x and mod sine x. But now let's take a look at mod, or rather cosine mod x. So what do you notice for the cosine and sine graphs, right? They are actually symmetrical about the y-axis. So cosine mod x and sine mod x would just give you back the same graph. Alright, so that is the thing about our first two trigonometry graph for sine x and cosine x. Whether is it mod sine x, mod cosine x, or minus mod x, minus cosine x, is actually pretty simple. Alright, but now if we move on to our tangent x graph, it's slightly different. Alright, so let's say we have now y equals to tangent x. And if you want to sketch the graph of y equals to mod tangent x, right? I think it's pretty simple. So we know that, well, tangent x will look something like this. Of course, I'm not going to draw the asymptotes. I don't really have time for that. But basically, you just flip the bottom on top to give you the, wow, wait, hold on. Wow, I can't draw the tangent graph properly. I keep confusing it with the quadratic graph. Okay, this is the actual tangent x graph. I kind of forgotten that, but whatever it is, you just do the normal flipping, you end up just getting, well, mod tangent x will just simply be sort of a quadratic graph in the center, and then yeah, so you get something like this. And basically, if you want to continue, it's just basically like many u's for your mod tangent x. Right, but now let's say we have minus mod tangent x, then basically you get n's, right? So it's like you get n at the bottom of the x-axis. But now let's say we instead now have mod, or rather tangent x, tangent mod x, okay? And we know that, well, it's not exactly symmetrical anymore, right? Because this is how your tangent x graph would look like. And we know that it's not symmetrical about the y-axis anymore. It is not even symmetrical. It has rotational symmetry, but it's not symmetrical about y-axis. So now if we have tangent mod x, then what happens is that it would be very different in a way where it will be symmetrical. It's not longer the same graph anymore. Just unlike cosine x and sine x, it will now actually exhibit proper symmetry, but in another way. So now you have this, and then we will have this, right? So I'm trying to draw it symmetrically, something like this. Yes, so it is very different as compared to your sine and cosine, where they're actually the same, but in this case it isn't. All right, let me just draw this slightly better. So this will be, oh wow. All right, so this will be our tangent mod x. I don't think you're required to know how to sketch tangent mod x, but this is something interesting to consider. All right, so this is our trigonometry graphs when we apply a modulus to it.